try again. It's getting tight.
Automated driving technology activated.
Now let's see how your vehicles compare when it comes to their efficiency.
Test.
Please subscribe to Big Jim Country Boy YouTube channel. Like and click the bell icon to receive notifications. Hi, this is Big Jim Country Boy here today. I'm going to do somewhat of a review on one of these electric log splitters. Now, I'm not going to tell you the brand or where I bought it or nothing like that. They're pretty much all about the same. Mainly because nobody's sponsoring this. I bought this for my use here on the homestead, and I ran into a few obstacles, and I used the Friends. It's about 20 years old and a little bit different design, and I was splitting wood with his like this with no trouble, and I was having trouble splitting things like this that were not free with this one at one point. When I got it, it worked a little bit better right out of the box than it did a little later when I wanted to use it. And I'm like, what happened? And here's a few things that I found out. First of all, you need a very heavy extension cord. 10 gauge wire or 8 gauge wire extension cord, or don't even try with this device. It's not going to work. You need one extension cord long enough to reach from your breaker panel to where you're going to be operating. Now, mine is down in my basement here on the other side of that wall through the Bilco doors, basically 6 feet under where the power goes in. It hooks to a breaker box. Now down there, I previously installed in one of my other videos, I'll put a link up here for solar power, and you'll see I installed an outlet dedicated there to go right back into my breaker box. Now, that is where I have this 50-foot 10 gauge extension cord plugged in down there. So we have sufficient electricity now, but it still didn't have any power to split any wood with the ram. So I did some investigating, and there's an adjustment over here. And there's an adjustment over here on this side, this red cap on every one that I've ever seen, even the one that's 20 years old. And if you take this off, it says, do not adjust. And I don't understand what language that's in, so I investigated on how to adjust this by trial and error. And there used to be a little stud that stuck out here over a ½ inch, about to my finger. And that stud has an Allen hex inside of it. It's hollow. So what you do is you put an Allen wrench on here. After you loosen this nut, this is a lock nut to hold it in place. You can take and turn this stud in. Okay? Now what that does is there's some kind of pressure valve in here. And then if you adjust it in, it increases the pressure. Okay? This is a 5-ton, that's 10,000 pounds of force. There's no way I was getting that. Okay, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. But if you adjust this in, it gives you more power, and then you simply lock it back down with this silver nut. Okay, and then you put this back on. Now, the reason I did this is the older one that's 20 years old I used. Okay, now mind you, it's older. This ram, when it would get a hard piece of wood, this would flex a little bit, okay, like this way, and if it was on an angle, you see there's a big knot bulge out here, it would twist a little bit as it was going through the wood. If it wasn't sawed just straight, this would turn to try to match the saw cut a little. And even the cutting edge here would flex a little bit at the top, just a little bit, but you could see it move under stress. And then a lot of the pieces of wood will explode. They'll pop and split right through. Or if it's got a minor knot, it'll cut through slow. Now, I put small wood in here, less than 10 inches in diameter, that this says that it'll split. And I noticed it's just pushing on here. This is barely penetrating. There's no flex to it. There's no flex to anything. And even with a crooked piece of wood, this didn't have enough force to try to twist or to flex back or anything. So I says it just doesn't have enough power. So we adjusted it. We put a piece of wood in and a longer piece back to here. We could now see this thing was flexing and then busting into it with this edge as it pushes down, and it was really giving it its a college try to split. But I could hear the motor running under a load. It would split a little bit, and it's still traveling and under a slighter load, and then it would wind up and almost go free. So I says, what's going on here? I says, it sounds to me like it's low on hydraulic oil. So I did some looking around and everything, and I figured some things out. And if you take on this model, I'm sure they all have it, you stand this up and put the wheels down, and you can put this on the dirt or the ground too, and it'll steady up there by itself for you on a hard flat surface. And you take out this screw under here, and this is a dipstick actually, and when I took that out, there was no oil on it. And then I added some more hydraulic oil. I just got all-purpose, basically any machinery type hydraulic oil. It's universal from Tractor Supply that we use on the farm with hillbilly and stuff, and I took some of that and I put it in here, and it worked a lot better. It was really working good. Now you see I split on my tailgate, and I use this truck for a wheelbarrow. So I'll split this and I'll throw it in there, then I'll spin the truck around and I'll back up to that pile there about 3 feet from it, and then I'll stack my wood. Now you can see the tailgates leaning downhill. It would still get to the point when this ram came down to here or so, and it didn't break the wood yet, and it still had to split it more. Sometimes it's stringy. The motor would free up and run freer. It sounded like it was under less of a load, and it wasn't working too good. So I added more hydraulic oil. It's probably way over full, but it was still doing that about here. And the reason was, see how the tailgate's leaning downhill that way? I'll try to hold the phone as level as possible so you can see the tailgate. Okay, the camera is probably level now. See how the tailgate runs downhill? Well, that's why there's blocks of wood under that log splitter, because of where I have it here. It was just easy. Now the hydraulic fluid, I believe this is the tank in here. Now all the fluid right to the last drop, so to speak, if you ever ran it that low, it is going to get to the hydraulics to operate this machine. So now everybody knows green wood splits harder and the whole 9 yards. I'm going to hand the camera back over to little Jim Country Boy here, and I'm going to go and split one in a minute, and I'm going to show you how powerful this thing is now compared to what it used to be. And this was only $2.99 plus tax. It's a very inexpensive splitter. It saves the back a maul handle. If you break 2 maul handles this season, that's $100 for 2 more mauls. Now, at Harbor Freight, I bought this clamp. It's not the smallest one, it's the next size up, whatever that is. 6-inch, because the first one I got I think was a 4 or 5 inch and it wouldn't fit. You need a 6-inch clamp. They're like $3, and that holds the power button down. Okay, and the reason you do this is because otherwise this is a 4 or 5 handed operation. Now, we have this electric cord here. You plug this foot pedal into the electric cord, and then you take the wire from the splitter, and that plugs down there by my toe into the end of this pedal. See it? Now, when I'm working, hands free, I can step. Gotta get my balance right here on this uneven wet ground. Now the machine runs. Okay, so that frees up one hand. Now, you still have to hold this handle down too to make the ram go forward like this. Now if I let that go and hold the pedal, it don't do nothing. It slowly seeps back. So that's where I said I needed 2 hands and I couldn't balance wood up here. I'm trying to get this set up so I can work by myself. Okay, then when you let go of the pedal and you let this handle spring back, that travels back. If you wanted to catch it there and save time, that's big enough to put in a piece of wood. You could hold that handle down, but now you only got one hand to get that piece of wood or get that piece of wood and put it up here. So this was going all the way back. One of the other things I did is I laid a hatchet in here, and that used to stop it a few inches further, 4 inches from bottoming out. But that's what I got going so far there with that. Now, what I did is I took a board and I drilled a hole in it and I tied the rope to the handle here. I drilled a hole, as you saw, and put that nail in just to keep it stationary so it doesn't move everywhere. Now if I step down on this till it stops, the handle's all the way down and it's still off the ground because I wanted extra room in case I move it to a different area or something. So what I did is I tied a string here, a rope from the Dollar Tree. You get like 25 or 50 foot or something for $1. It's pretty good stuff. I drilled a hole in the board and I tied that to that. And then I got a hole drilled in there with a big landscaping spike through it just to keep it somewhat stationary. And then when I step on this pedal, it stops before it bottoms out on the ground. That way if I move it to different terrain or whatever, but what it does, it puts the handle down for me to freeze up my other hand. And then this one makes it run. So basically, I can balance myself here or use both hands here if I want. And I'm going to put my left foot down and hold that handle down. And then I'm going to put this other one here like this and put my weight on my heel. I'm just using this like a gas pedal. Okay? And the reason is because there's going to be 2 pieces of wood coming off of this. Now, the other thing I could do is I feel I'm too close for comfort. I can move this back. And incidentally, there's a hole in this where you can screw this to a board to stabilize that pedal better. So anyway, step on the string, left foot, right foot. Now I got two hands to work. Now mind you, this wood split this piece of wood before. Now I can just take my feet off. Let the handle back. Now I don't need to go no further, so I can stop. And hold that now so it doesn't go back further. Now I can still stand on one foot, so to speak, and work this wood around. See why you need two hands free? It's going to save you time and waiting for that to cycle all the way back again. Now I just simply step on the pedal and it engages everything. So you don't want that to go all the way back, because then you got to wait for it to travel back forward again. I don't know about you, but I like to get things done when I can get them done, not wait all day for stuff. And then I'll throw it up there, I'll throw it up there. And that's it. That's as close as they come. That's all the way extended. Now, one thing I did notice is my board might be a little heavy. It may be the nail. I got to back the nail off a little bit, maybe. It was keeping the handle from returning by itself. Yeah, I had the nail just a little too tight on the ground down there. But see, here I am with two hands again, trying to move wood. All right. And you're going to need at least one to stabilize this. And the reason I want to keep one here with a firm push anyway, you'll find out it'll stall out. It doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere. The motor will die down a little bit and you can see the machine flex, and then all of a sudden it'll go through, it'll cut and split, but it does it in an explosive manner. It'll explode. And if you ain't got a hand here and you're there and it pops like that, you may have to go see an emergency dentist after you pick your teeth up off the ground. Did you see that? That's why I want my hands free to hold that. Because I don't want that thing to smack me in my teeth or any place else when it breaks like that. All right, let's split one more. This is big and ugly, right? It's got a knot in it too. Okay, let's see what it does. Now this one's big and ugly with a knot in it. And it's well over 10 inches. I don't have a tape measure handy, but my hands are about 10 inches. So that's probably close to 18 to 20. Now, I'm going to use my hand on the lever this time. Now, can you see how the machine's flexing? That it has a lot of power now? Before it was so weak it wouldn't even flex like that under a load. Okay? Now, if this was dry wood, you can see the moisture coming out of it. If this was dry wood, it would probably split it better, and it's not. Plus, we just had 3 days of solid rain. And if this knot wasn't here, okay, intertwining all that on an angle, making it harder to split. So anyway, in a case like this, what I found out is I can still split this without busting out the maul and the sledgehammer, most of the time. One thing I was doing is beating on here with this hammer, and that multiplies the force while you're trying to cut it. But you can see that's not feasible because it's not going to last. Now, what I do is, and this is why I need my hands to do this by myself, I'm just going to try to cut this and split this edge now. Okay? Sometimes, if you're good, if you're lucky, you can hit that and it'll pop off there. Now let's just see if I can run the ram into it a little further. See why you gotta have at least one hand free? It's stupid to run this with two hands. You need somebody to work with. You gotta have at least one hand to balance that to keep it off your toes. Now, I had a hatchet around here. I think one of my rotten kids took it. And I chopped that stringy stuff. You can tell because it's so green. So now, yeah, be careful you don't get your fingers between that and the wood. It will cut you and mess you up. And oh, by the way, this was dull. I chipped all the red paint off of it and I sharpened it with a flat surface grinder, angle grinder. Let's give it another whirl now, see what happens. Now, did you notice how that whole machine flexed and then it stopped and then it went through? It wouldn't do that before when I first got it. I need to get a better block under the legs here. In case anybody's wondering, this is black walnut, if you didn't know already. If I had my hatchet to chop these off, it goes a lot easier. Let me find that. I'll cut you out. I'll be back when I get the hatchet. Okay, so I got the hatchet. You just cut this stringy crap out of here. Careful not to smack your hand on that. If you really would have did one at a time, you could turn it this way more so you're not cutting over that. See, this is the way I like to do it. And then if you got to cut a little bit, I don't, but just to show you, just chop them, cut these fibers. And then we throw that in there. And now we can take this and spin it this way a little bit. You should always put the straight end down there. But I want to cut some off this side over here. Yeah, so that's why I always want the flat end down. Because what it's doing is just cut uneven from where they cut the tree down. And the pusher's hitting here, and it's just kicking the wood out. Now remember, this is where we tried to split it before and it wouldn't go, right? See the mark? Let's line that back up and try again now. So, it's like anything else, sometimes you just took too big of a bite. It's still possible, back up, it's still possible to split things bigger than 10 inches. That one doesn't want to come off yet. Stay away from the knot a little bit. Come off the back, it raised it up. Too much. Yeah, see, it moved on me when I wasn't watching and got into that knot. So that's okay. We'll take this, we'll turn it. Okay, the knot's all on that side now for the most part. Now I know what you're going to do in the comments. You're going to say, well, my log splitter will go right through that knot. Yeah, well, you're putting wear and tear on it, and it's also a more expensive machine, a big hydraulic splitter. But you don't need to kill yourself with that. I'm going to show you here how I do it with this little splitter. Come around here. This is where I keep the hatchet for. You see that? Just chop them. You only got to get 80 to 90% of them most of the time, and you can push the wood off. Now, we made this small enough, we can turn it this way and split some of that possibly. Bring this back up here again and line it up. It's somewhat on the edge of this flat piece. It's got to go through the knot, but it's on the outer portion of it. It's like cutting a roast with a bone in it. You don't try to slice right down through the bone, you cut it off the bone. It's kind of what you got to think about when you split this wood with knots in it. Now all I did is rotated it a little bit. Here was our last failed attempt. I rotated it a little bit and I scooted it out this way just a little. knots wanting to lift the wood off. And then there's another way besides sawing this with the chainsaw that works sometimes too. And that's simply flip this over, put the blade on this end, and give yourself more leverage to spread that knot. As long as the pusher will stay on the wood back here, but I don't think it will. Now, what's everybody think? Do they think that split that knot, or I'm still screwed? Well, let's just see if it pulls apart. That big knot in there is trying to slide apart, but I can't quite put enough force on it. So here's another trick I can show you. We put this back in there, and we ran out of push. We didn't have enough hydraulic cylinder, right? So we're going to take a piece of wood like this that's pretty stout yet, but shorter. Follow me around here. We're going to squeeze this in behind here. Sometimes you got to persuade it with the Tanya Harding. Now this is going to give me more push, as long as it stays in. So that was that. You split your knot with an electric log splitter. We're going to put this back in and do it again. If I can keep it on the foot. Yeah, it's not going to stay on the foot down here because, I mean, that's what I'm trying to put on this foot pedal. This, and it's not going to work. But this will fit in my stove. Now this one, if you look at the grain of the wood, you can see how the grain comes up here and turns off the knot. So you can split from here over anywhere you put the blade fairly easy. We're going to try to go best to center, so we're going to put that blade right about here and split through here, and it's going to split that way rather than trying to split through this knot. I'm just going to turn it over so I can see where that grain's at. Well, I can't do that because the foot's going to miss. So we want to be about there. Now you see how we followed that natural seam? And it comes off pretty easy. It gives you any trouble. This is cheap, like $10 from Harbor Freight, and again we had to sharpen it. Not that I'm doing a review on it or nothing, they're not sponsoring anything, that's just where I bought mine. This did not come from Harbor Freight. They do sell something similar, almost exact though. But the other thing is, here's a stout piece of wood. Here's a stout piece of wood with no knots. Look, Mom, no hands. I suggest you save a lot of this big, and when you're going out or going to work or going to bed at night, you put this on, close your flue, close all the air vents up on your stove, put that in on a hot bed of coals, and it'll burn a long time to keep your house warm until you return or wake. I like to split the bark off because the bark's made and designed to keep moisture in. Okay? Now that we got that off, this piece of wood will dry better. I even split some of this white stuff off a lot of this, because that's like the sappy layer. It's got a lot of moisture in it. This bigger piece will dry better, and then you got smaller ones for kindling. And then if you want, you can go through here pretty quick. Make a lot of kindling with the ones that don't have knots in them, that are straight. That's all you need to do for now. Then we're going to put the blade in the middle of that one. Just split that one by half again. I didn't want to do it. Just pushed it off. But that's all right. Just enough to take it out and start again. Put the handle back down right away, split it again, back off, hit the handle again, back off. We didn't catch it tight enough. Okay, so you just flip them all over this way. You can see they're cut this way already, for the most part. And that's one of the things I like to do to make some kindling. And the greatest thing about this is the machine. In a pinch, let's stop and imagine for a minute. It's late December, middle of January, or maybe even March. And it's like 3 degrees out, snowing, 20-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm out of kindling wood. This could be in my house, plugged into the extension cord, and I could split wood, or even just split kindling wood. Now, I know what everybody's going to say. Split kindling wood with this, right? And the way you put this is, you put this up here, okay, and then you got to hold it or it's going to fall down most of the time, because you don't have this to lean it on. Most of the time you're like this on a block of wood. See, don't want to stay. So what you see a lot of people do is they'll swing like this, and then here they'll try to let go and pull their hand out and then split the wood like this. Okay, I'm not hitting it hard because it's on my tailgate. But when mom comes to the door or somebody and says, "Hey Jim," and you go, "What?" You go like this. And then you get a free ride to the emergency room. See that scar? That was when I was 18 years old from doing said thing on my mother's porch, and it went right down into the back of the nail here. I lost the nail and then a new one grew in right, luckily. Incidentally, I should have just put a band-aid on it, cleaned it, because that's all they did. They didn't want to tape it. They put a butterfly stitch, which is like a butterfly-shaped band-aids on it. But this is what I was talking about people try to do. And move your hand. But if you get out of rhythm, it causes problems. But this guy will split this up small for you too. All you gotta do is just leave it about 3/8 of an inch on the edge, and they pop right off. and my hands ain't in there. If you want to do it fast, you give it that little 1/4 inch to 3/8. As soon as it splits, you lift your pedal up. Move it over again. Back it up just enough to get it in there again. Wood's just splitting funny. There you go. So I wanted to share that with you because I ran into some obstacles, and I leave mine outside most of the time. I cover it with that tote there, like a little splitter garage, and then I'll come out and do some here and there. But that's it. That's a 5-ton electric log splitter. Big Jim Country Boys modified it, and that's the way she goes. So please like, subscribe, share on social media to all your friends and family. I welcome you to share these videos on any platform, any way you can. And I would also appreciate it. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day.